Okay, guys, class a little bit different today. You're going to be hearing my voice and seeing this PowerPoint. What you should have in front of you is a copy of the Sectionalism and Civil War notes. Almost there. We're in the last stretch of the race. Before the STAR test, I'm going to go over three major topics: sectionalism, Civil War, and finally Reconstruction. So for the next 2.5 weeks, we're going to knock out sectionalism and Civil War. Okay? So let's go ahead and get started. Sectionalism. That's the first thing we're going to talk about. We're going to start it today and finish it up tomorrow. Okay? So as I'm talking, I want you to be writing down the key topics or the whatever's missing on your blank fill-in notes and the blank spots available. Okay? So let's get started. Geography and sectionalism. There's three parts to the nation at this period. You can see on the map here at the bottom. You got the North, the South, and the West. Now, the South had really, really good soil. From the very beginning of the country's existence, the soil was good for growing crops. And because the soil was good for growing crops, there's a very small population. You don't have a lot of big cities. You don't have a lot of factories. You don't have a lot of industry. The population is small and spread out because everyone is on farms, or a majority of people are on farms. And it's all based on crops. And the major thing it's based on is cotton, indigo, rice, sugar, some of the cash crops. There's very few actual food being produced in the South. Now the North, on the other hand, the North has really, really good ports and has tons of different natural resources. Because of that, a lot of immigrants came into the North to try to help out retrieving those resources and producing it into raw materials, or I'm sorry, into finished products. The reason for that is they had good ports. They were able to quickly move the goods from the North to wherever they want. They could ship it down to the South, ship it to Europe, ship it to South America. They could ship it to wherever they want. So the North was a tons of different industrial products, a variety of different products. This is going to help out the North in the Civil War because having so many different products, they're going to be able to dominate the war effort. And there's sectional differences in the United States. Many are rooted in the economics. The South was all about slave labor. The North didn't like it so much because of the economics. The South hated tariffs. The North liked tariffs because they're economics. Tariffs protected Northern industry, but the South didn't buy a lot of their stuff from the North. The South bought it from Europe. And the tariffs hurt them because they had to pay taxes on stuff they got from Europe. So what we're going to find out is a lot of these Civil War issues, problems, they go all the way back to this geographical problem, the sectionalism problem. So there's also congressional conflicts and compromises. The first one was the Missouri Compromise. It was sponsored by Henry Clay. There was a problem on where are we going to get, or if new states enter the Union, like Missouri, where are they going to be? Are they going to be free slaves? Are they allowed to choose? What's going to happen? Well, the Missouri Compromise allowed Missouri to enter the Union as a slave state and Maine as a free state. And this set the precedent for the rest of up until 1865. And what that said is that if you have a state coming into the Union, you got to balance out the Union. You can't have too many free states or too many slave states. Because if you do, then one of the two are going to gain power. And we want everyone to be equal. Because if someone gains power, we're fighting, and they didn't want to do that. The nullification crisis happened in 1828, and it was the passage of the Tariff of Abominations. Basically what this is that there's a super, super high tariff on all goods coming into the United States. And that made the South really mad, because the South was getting a ton of its stuff from England, from France, from a lot of these different countries. And what happened was South Carolina was hit the hardest. They're purely cash crops. They're exporting their crops to Europe, and they're getting all their finished goods from Europe. So they get so mad that there's a group of them led by Senator John C. Calhoun, who was a vice president at the time, and he said, we're going to nullify, we're going to get rid of your tariff. We're not going to have it. And if you don't agree with us, we're going to secede. We're going to break away from the Union. What now? However, we had a president called Jackson in office. And Jackson really didn't like to deal. He was pretty much USA, I'm going to shoot you in the face. So Jackson did not consider nullification a right of the states because a state's government has to follow a congressional law. They have to. And they can appeal the states, or the federal government can appeal and correct the state's decision. So Jackson basically went down there and said, look, if y'all don't follow what I'm telling you, we're going to bring the army down here, we're going to burn Charleston. So South Carolina finally said, okay, and both sides kind of, gave in. The government, Jackson, he lowered the tariff, and South Carolina said, okay, fine, we'll accept the tariff. The Compromise of 1850, also supported by this guy, Clay. He was doing tons of work. He single-handedly kept us out of a civil war before 1865. And the Compromise of 1850, right after the Mexican-American War, it allowed California to enter the Union as a free state. But like we talked about earlier, you had to have that balance. Some other thing has come in for the South. So what they finally did was they said, okay, California, you can come in as a free state, but everyone else can have popular sovereignty. All other states can vote to see if they want slavery or not. And what happened was that made the South happy because now the South can settle anywhere. Slaves can be, in any of the states. It doesn't have to just be between the North and the South. And they also got one other thing that's pretty drastic. It included the fugitive slave law, which required the return of escaped enslaved people to their slaveholders. So even though if you were a slave in the South and you escaped to the North, a free state, if you were caught in the North, you could still be drugged back down to the South and put back into slavery. And this made the North mad. They felt this was immoral, this is wrong. How could our government do that? But it also pleased the South. And this is another tension. All these sectional issues, they're slowly separating a North and a South so that people start feeling closer to their region, their section, instead of the nation. And this sectionalism, feeling closer to your section instead of the nation, would slowly lead us to the Civil War. Now, Kansas-Nebraska Act kind of piggybacks on the Compromise of 1850. It allowed Kansas and Nebraska to organize based on popular sovereignty. But here's the thing. There's a lot of crooks and thieves over in Kansas. So what happened is Kansas right next to Missouri. And Missouri was a slaveholding state. So on the day they voted, a whole bunch of people from Missouri went right across the state lines, voted, and went right back home. So in the first election, Kansas became a slave state because, cheating. But after that, the free population of Kansas wanted a revote. So they revoted in secret, and it became a free state, which made all the Southerners mad. So what this caused was more issues. The South thought that the North were trying to cheat them out of territory, and the North thought the South was trying to cheat them out of territory. Everything is just exacerbated. No matter what the situation is, it all goes back to slavery. And slowly we can see from... Sorry, that was my phone. I apologize. Slowly we can see from the beginning of the nation to now, problems are rising. People kept on separating themselves into these sectional groups and not a nation. And when you separate yourself, you start to cause conflict because both groups thought that they represented the right America, and it would cause a civil war to figure out who was right. All right, guys. Sorry about that. There's a problem, but I got it going. So John C. Calhoun. John C. Calhoun, remember, he was the South Carolina senator who favored states' rights. And he was one who when the tariff of abominations came in, he's the one that told Jackson, hey, it's the state's government's right to reject your law. If we don't like it, we can reject it. And that's what Jackson came back and said, ha ha ha, no, I got an army over here. So John C. Calhoun is the one who supported states' rights. He's the one who said states have rights to reject federal mandates if they don't fit what's right for the state. It's all about states' rights. It says that the government is based on a federation of states, so the states decide what's best for themselves and then work together with the federal government. And what the Southerners during the Civil War, what they're going to say is, yeah, as John C. Calhoun guy was right. It's our states' rights to secede if we think this government isn't going to support us. Henry Clay was just awesome. He was an awesome dude. He kept us out of the Civil War for a long period of time. He was a great compromiser. He was able to create smooth agreements between the sectional crises that erupted all the way from 1820 to all the way down to the Civil War, and he was able to keep both sides somewhat content with the problems. However, he died before the Civil War. So he delayed the Civil War for a long period of time, but without him, the Civil War erupted. Now, Daniel Webster came on the tail end of Henry Clay, and Daniel Webster was a senator from Massachusetts. He's also known as a great orator, and he worked after Henry Clay to create compromise from the southern states, and he tried to delay the Civil War, and he was successful to a degree, but he wasn't a Henry Clay caliber figure, and because of that, the Civil War occurred. All right, guys, we're down to our independent practice time. You have about 3 minutes. This video ran a little bit short, so we have about 3 minutes more of our mini teach. So if you missed any of the content, please tell Miss Latier to go back to whatever slides you need to go to. The PowerPoint is emailed to her, so tell her the title of the slide, and she can go back to find that. All right. So our independent practice, everyone's done. We only have about 3 minutes to make up any of the missing topics. Sorry, guys, we're on a tight schedule. But this is what y'all going to do. You're going to work on the Learning with Graphic Organizers on page 249 of your workbook. And on a sheet of notebook paper, you're going to answer the following sections. You're going to answer the section that says Sectionalism, Dred Scott Decision, Issue of Slavery in the New Territories, and Founding of the Republican Parties. All right? All right. Well, I'll see you tomorrow.